My own is this. Before the book was written, I was pressured. I was under a lot of personal pressure that I must write this book and it must be in the public space because none of us will live forever. Now I have written this book. Those who feel aggrieved by the book should do me the favor of suing me. I have not whispered in a beer parlor. I did not talk in some back room somewhere. I have written a book. It is in the public domain. If they are aggrieved, let them go to court. Maybe everybody, they tell us in Nigeria, go to court. Okay, so me, I'm saying to them as well, go to court.
But you have not still told me on this platform, and perhaps a lot of my audiences who have not read the book, what did Afe Babalola do to you?
You are making this sound like some personal grievance between myself and Afe Babalola. I'm saying it is not personal. I'm saying that Afe Babalola corrupted the judiciary. And in corrupting the judiciary, it came across my practice. When I came across it, I challenged it as a lawyer and I fought it to the point where he could not enjoy the fruit of his exertion in the Supreme Court. In writing the letter that he wrote to the then Chief Justice of Lagos State, Ayomide Philip, he libeled me. He suggested that I should be derobed, that what I had done was deserving of sanction, and I should have been struck off the bar. And when I saw this, knowing what I already knew of what he did, I wrote a letter asking that he should withdraw that letter that he had written that was libelous of me. And he declined. Arrogantly so, he declined. And I sued him for libel. And when I sued for libel, the machines of corruption went into overdrive, and a case that should never have been killed at the preliminary stage was killed. Everything about the case, the judge to whom it was assigned, the manner of the handling of the case, 9 months after it was adjourned for ruling, 9 months. The procedures are clear. It shouldn't be longer than 3 months. 9 months without informing us, in spite of the fact that we had written 2 letters to request to be told when the ruling will be delivered. So, and then the ruling went as far as to say that, look, Sheung, there are some things that should not be reduced to person. This has nothing to do with persons. If Afe Babalola was the only person who is licensed to enjoy that level of impunity, that's different. It's not about him. It's a system-wide problem. You simply can't get justice from the system. When I spoke about him and the others, they are merely as examples. He has nothing to do with persons. I don't know him as a person beyond what I have described. I think I've only ever set my eye on him once in my entire life. I described it in the book. It was at Itro Terminal 5. That was the only time I ever saw him in my life, and it was before this occurrence. So it's nothing personal. But if persons have perpetrated evil and they have reinforced it and built a system that is as patently evil as the one in which we are living, it becomes the duty of the conscious. If you are conscious of that evil, you must speak against it. If you don't speak against it, you are helping to normalize it. So when the United Nations is speaking about corruption in the Nigerian system, when a judge is appointing his son, his daughter-in-law, when the entire system becomes as prebendal as it has become, it becomes easy for persons to influence things within the system to the detriment of those who should be citizens. So I'm not speaking about persons. I loathe to speak about persons. But when I am compelled to speak about persons in relation to their impact on the system, And as types, I have no choice. I have no choice. It is whether what I have said is the truth or not. That should be what counts. It's not about the person. I don't care about names. I don't care about whether the person is 100 years old or 10 years old. It is about what level of respect have you earned. What is the value of the life you have lived?
Do you think that there is some kind of cultic arrangement within the legal profession that drags the judiciary by the jugular, such that there are some persons within the legal profession that get justice the way they want? Because in some of your explanation, it does look like there is a class of lawyers or the class of persons within the Nigerian legal practice that gets whatever they want in the courtrooms.
The Nigerian judiciary is not different from any other aspect of our society. What you find is that, okay, look at Ariwola, for instance. A man is the Chief Justice of the Federation. He makes his son a judge of the Federal High Court. He makes his daughter-in-law a judge of the Federal Court of Federal Capital Territory. He makes his brother Auditor of the Nigerian Judicial Council. Another family member became a judge of the Court of Appeal. When you have these egregious abuses of the Judicial Code of Conduct, when they have more or less turned judicial appointment into a family inheritance, when it is the girlfriends and wives of politicians that become judges and justices, what you find is a replication of what you have in the police, in the custom, and in every other aspect of our society. So it is not as if there is a special court in the judiciary or at the bar. No, not necessarily. It's the same Nigerian factor of not holding people responsible for their actions, of a system that is not designed to enforce the rule of law. It is that same system that you are seeing at work in the judiciary. It is just that its effect on the judiciary is by far more ruinous than everywhere else, because the illusion of justice has been eroded. There is no longer any illusion that there is justice. Everybody now knows that you are not going to get justice from. How do you expect to get justice from a court that is constantly doing all kinds of somersaults? So it's not about a court somewhere. If there is one, I'm unaware. But I do know that with every other Nigerian thing, when some people have conquered a space as though it were to be a territory, you then find a succession of their children, their friends and assigns being placed in offices, and the person who has appointed you, to a very large extent in a prebendal system, gets to dictate what you do. So we've managed to evolve a judicial system that works to deliver justice to the poor and to the rich and powerful, but only judgment gets to the poor. So the poor will end up in prison, the poor will end up with the heavy end of the stick, but the rich, they get justice delivered faster. If an emir wants to sue now, he will sue and they will deliver judgment within 1 week. That's why you ended up with the madness in Kano. But if a poor man needs justice delivered quickly, he's still in court for the 4 years, like I have been in court for 4 years, and I'm not exactly poverty ridden, and yet nobody has heard me. So what kind of judicial system have we built? So it's not about persons, it's not about court, it's a reflection of who we are as a society and what we have done to our justice delivery system. It's nothing to do with any court, it's our society.
There was something you said which came out to me. You said Nigeria, I'm quoting you, Nigeria and its criminal justice system are one of the most violent injustices that I have ever seen coming out of that Supreme Court. Came from a panel on which this particular justice sat twice. I'm talking about Justice Ariwola. But a lot of encomium has been on him as he bows out. President Tinubu stated that he was selfless, hardworking, and dedicated. Don't you see that your opinion of the CJN or the retired CJN differs from that of the president or some section of the Nigerian public?
When agiographers presume to write history, they dress the subject in borrowed gowns, and then sometimes they steal crowns to wear for the subject. These people who are expressing all these opinions of Justice Kayode Ariwola and talking about how selfless he is. How selfless is he when he was appointing his son a judge of the Federal High Court against the clear provision of the Judicial Code of Conduct? How selfless was he when he was appointing his brother auditor of the National Judicial Council? So I'm not going to, like I said, it's not personal. So when they are busy eulogizing him and talking about how selfless he is, let them remember that the history on paper, the facts suggest the exact opposite of what they are saying. But like I said, I have nothing personal against Ariwola as a man. I don't know him. I've never seen him in my life. I've never met him. So whatever it is that they say he is, history will judge all of us eventually. History would decide whether a selfless man would appoint his son a judge, his daughter-in-law a judge, his brother auditor, another cousin, justice of the Court of Appeal, under his watch as the Chief Justice of the Federation. So me, I'm not going to join issues with his judgment by history. I've written what I know of him, and that was what I found in coming across him as a public servant. Other than that, I don't know him as a person. I have merely given my account of what I know. Those who are busy dressing him in borrowed gowns, they can enjoy themselves. History will take those gowns off him in due course.
Coincidentally, there was a matter in court with the former Minister of Finance, Kemi Adeosun, and it looked to me that this is yet another kind of frustration that you express in this book about the state of our justice system. How sad do you think this scenario for you based on how you express it in the book?
Mike, I had a case. I was being tried before Justice Dada, and whilst I was there, two people were equally being tried by the EFCC before Justice Dada. The lady was trying to procure a visa to the United Kingdom, and she was trying to do this using forged documents. And the second accused, our co-accused, was the one who was more or less like the travel agent who provided the forged document. Whilst I was there, whilst my own case was also going on, this pair were convicted and sentenced to prison. It was the same week that they were sentenced to prison that the Kemi Adeosun story was breaking in the Nigerian press. And I was looking at this. In this same society, where somebody who was trying to escape the madness of Nigeria in a desperation, yes, not condoning criminality, in a desperation, she procured forged documents. The system, with the agency of the EFCC, ensured their imprisonment. But Kemi Adeosun, a minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, forged their own NYSC paper. What happened to her? Nothing. So for the poor, you have judgment. For the rich, you have impunity. So it's merely, again, like I said, it's not about persons. As you can see, I cannot even remember the name of the victims. They are without names. I just remember that it was another Nigerian, male and a female, and they were victims of the system. The same system that criminalized them, forced them into lives of criminality, was also very effective in ensuring that they were punished. But someone like Kemi Adeosun sat in the office of the Minister for Finance in this country, doing so with forged NYSC papers, and nothing happened to her. There is another story I told in there of a gentleman I went to law school with. He was convicted of a misdemeanor in his undergraduate years in the UK. The Council of Legal Education refused to call him to the bar. I don't know if they've called him to the bar now. But the same Council of Legal Education, the same Nigerian Judicial Council, he sat watching. Who has asked Justice Flora Azinge to name the senior advocate of Nigeria that was attempting to bribe her. Up until today, nobody. So it's painful, but the reality is that Nigeria is not blessed with a justice delivery system. There is none. The sooner we all wake up to the reality and just admit to our problem, the better for all of us.
So the question, because in all of this, you've established and you've shown some of the practical, you are not talking about things that you plucked from the root. You are talking about your personal experiences in the Nigerian judiciary, in your own practice. But it does look like a hopeless case for anyone seeking justice in the Nigerian judiciary. How do you think anyone can get justice? What are the hopes? How do we get out of this quagmire? And you have said that it is a societal problem, and it's not only typical of the Nigerian judiciary. There are other sectors. What can we do? And I'm hoping that there will be solutions for us to be able to get the kind of judiciary that we wish for.
We can't wish for anything, and we can't pray our way out of our mess. We can't even fast our way out of this mess. We have to be decisive enough in telling ourselves the truth. We have a problem, and that problem is not just our judiciary. Our problems lies in our mirrors. All we need to do is look in the mirror and we'll see our problem staring right back at us. The problem is not just if it was just the judiciary, we'll be talking about, okay, let's reform the judiciary. But when you are done reforming the judiciary, what are you going to do about our legislative arm? What are you going to do about our executive? What are you going to do about our police? What are you going to do about our customs? What are you going to do about we ourselves, our society? Ghanaians will not people any of our sectors. We are the ones who will still people it, and the question is, what have we done with it? So when you are asking me what the solutions might be, it is the same solution I've prescribed for the judiciary that I will prescribe for the police, that I will prescribe for our educational system. We need a drastic and urgent, radical turnaround. We have to admit to the fact that where we are is not desirable at all. Where we are, let's stop lying to ourselves that the excreta that has covered us is merely mud. It's not mud. It's foul excrete. We need to admit to it first. If we are going to walk away from it, we must admit to the undesirability of our situation. So the only thing that will save Nigeria, whether we like hearing it or not, there has to be a revolution of our minds before we can even talk about a revolution of our systems. But the system itself is what has conditioned all this to be happening, because there are no consequences for bad behavior. If there were consequences for bad behavior, this will not continue. But everybody has come to the knowledge of the fact that anything goes in our country. There is sheer impunity everywhere you turn. The apogee of the impunity that has come to define our lives as Nigerians is when you hear them tell you, go to court. That statement is pregnant. It tells us of the failure of the state that we have built. When people who are flagrantly disobeying the laws and trampling all over the rights of individuals will look you in the eye and tell you, go to court. Before it used to be, go to the station. Now go report me for station. Now it's no longer report me for station. It's go to court. And the most grueling and gruesome statement of the level of impunity that you are able to deploy, even with the instrumentality of our Supreme Court, are decisions such as the one you saw in Lawan, the like you saw in Akpabio, and the one that was done in the case in question in my book here. So it's not about something, it's not like it happened in my, like I described in my book, and it's happening every day across the length and breadth of Nigeria, from the magistrate court. I think the other day, a lawyer was busy broadcasting from a magistrate court, I think in Lagos, talking about how the magistrate, the clerk was demanding bribe before perfecting a bail. The thing, see, stop listening to me. Go out. There is enough out there to tell you how decadent the system has become. It's not about me. It's about the truth. All I am doing, I think the only thing unique about the book I have written is that somebody is talking about their own experiences and they are not doing beer parlor talk and they are putting names and dates and facts and figures. That is the only thing that is different. I have come to paint the details. That thing that the United Nations Office of Drug and Crime are telling you blithely, talking about general. The same thing that Mr. Ebonshofunde SAN was talking about when he says judicial reputation is at an all-time low. That Supreme Court judgments have become perfunctory. That is not Dele, that is the venerable Ebonshofunde SAN. Do you know that man is a doyen of our profession?
Mr. Farotimi, Mr. Farotimi, can we expect any, if Justice Kekerekun decide to bring out some very major judicial reforms, do you think we can see some kind of changes? And if there is a possibility, what kind of judicial reforms can you see? We've seen a 300% in the rise of pay to judicial officer. Is it a good way to start in reforming the judiciary and ridding it of corruption?
You cannot have a judiciary of saints and angels if you have a country peopled by those who have no respect for the law, for justice, or for equity. It is impossible to have a judiciary that is free of corruption when every other aspect of our society is as debased and corrupt as it is. When there are no consequences for actions, people are going to continue to misbehave. So if we're talking about reforms, the reforms cannot be solely about the judiciary. It's a society-wide thing. But if we are focusing on the judiciary, you have to take a look at the process of appointment. If politicians that we have all universally agreed are largely corrupt and crooked are the ones who are appointing judges, what kind of judges do we expect them to appoint? The judges are bound to be reflective of those who are appointing them. So you need to first of all look at, one, how are you recruiting your legislators? How are you recruiting your executive? Because they are the ones who end up influencing the appointment of judges. How are you doing this? So you cannot retain this decadent system as it is and then be expecting that the judiciary would, by some magic, be different from the rest of the system that has produced it. So talking about the judiciary, yes, we can talk about it sectorally, but it does not change the fact that it is merely a reflection of the society in which it operates. It is part and parcel of our society.
Let me quickly, let's wrap up this conversation. But your position, politically, of course, I saw what happened with Kenneth Okonkwo, who said he no longer speaks for Peter Obi because he doesn't think that he has the grit and the firmness to be able to handle issues. Are you still with Peter Obi? Do you hold similar notion, or what do you make of that kind of situation where he thinks what is going on in the Labour Party needed a firm and a very, very strong handling, but he didn't see that that Peter Obi was able to handle that situation the manner in which he did. Are you also disappointed with what is happening in the Labour Party?
Let me say this. What is happening in the Labour Party is, for me, the noise next door. I'm not a member of the Labour Party, and I have labored to make this clear before the election, during the election, and after the election. I have not concerned myself with what is happening in the Labour Party. Kenneth joined the Labour Party, so it was his business what was happening there. It's none of my business, and I've not made it my business. I'm not a politician. I am a citizen of a country that is not yet born, a victim of Nigeria looking to have a better country in the future. Peter Obi is a man that I admire a lot. I don't expect him to dictate what should happen in the Labour Party. When did he join them? The Labour Party is a party. It's not, I believe that if it's a party, to an extent, they would have to find a democratic means of resolving their differences. Peter Obi is not in a position to dictate the terms of their settlement to them, and I don't expect him to. Obviously, Kenneth Okonkwo has a different understanding of what Peter Obi's response should have been. He is a politician, just like Peter Obi is a politician. They are the ones who decide what political tactics works for them as politicians. Me, I'm not a politician. As of today, if there were to be a presidential election, Peter Obi is the person I'll still queue behind, because I believe in his capacity to take Nigeria in a non-violent manner to the revolution that I desire. I wish to see Nigeria turn around, and I don't want to see that happening violently. And I believe that Peter Obi has the mass appeal and the capacity to unite this country behind a vision for a better future. That is the basis. As at today, I don't know what he might do tomorrow that might change my mind. I'm a free agent. It might be that tomorrow he decides to align himself with persons that I do not believe I can work with, people that I believe cannot bring anything good to Nigeria. And on account of that, I might decide, okay, hasta la vista, we can't work together. But as at today, barring any dramatic happenstance, I remain solidly behind Peter Obi, and I will continue to support him into 2027 if he's going to run, and if we have managed to reform our electoral system. Because any election without a reformation of our electoral system, I'm not interested.
I mean, Kenneth Okonkwo went as far as saying, for 2027, Peter Obi, Bola Tinubu, Atiku should move aside.
Like,
or use, or you are of the opinion that 2027, you are of the opinion that 2027, Peter Obi should realign or go back to the ring and see through his hat and run again for president. That's your opinion, and that's your stand, isn't it?
Let me put it this way. Peter Obi did not lose the last election. Peter Obi won the last election. INEC and the judiciary performed their magic. 2027, there will be no election without a reformation of our electoral system. If the electoral system is not reformed to ensure that beavers and electronic transmission from the polling unit becomes compulsory, I would not even bother to participate in that election, because you can be sure that Tinubu was not in power that ran and snatched and grabbed it. Already has the 2027 election results written. A Tinubu that will be busy appointing weakest man as electoral commissioner, the most violent election rigger in Nigeria today, openly is Wike. That is the person whose proxy was being appointed as
that's a weighty allegation.
Electoral commissioner.
That's a weighty allegation. I
said it because it's on video. Now I beg, she will stop being politically correct. There are multiple videos and audios of Wike enforcing his political will in Rivers State over and above the sovereign will of the people of that state. Violently too. So this is not, please, I don't do beer parlor talk.
No, because
and when you need to balance things, you can, are you suggesting, okay, so let's turn it into an argument. I am saying here, my name remains Dele Farotimi, and I am saying that there are more than enough material online showing Wike violently suppressing the right of the people of Rivers State to elect their chosen representatives. And I am saying that his personal aide, his person, has already been appointed a resident electoral commission since Tinubu came to power. So how can you be talking about a free and fair election in 2027 when it's already a fait accompli that without consequential amendment of the Electoral Act, without a consequential reformation of our judicial system, the same madness that took place in 2023 will repeat itself in 2027. If we do not tell ourselves these basic truths ahead of time, how can we even hope that anything will change? We have to be unapologetic and unrepentant in pushing the truth in their eyes. As I've told you, the truth is both a sword and a shield. I love wielding it as a sword and smashing them on the head with it, and I don't care for their feelings. I don't know how long any one of us is going to live. I'm not going to live my life kowtowing to the opinion, sentiments, or emotions of worthless human beings who have wrecked the life of thousands and millions by their actions and inactions. So we cannot be talking about an election in 2027 in the presence of the multiple madnesses that have remained with us, in the presence of a situation where a corrupt INEC chairman will open his mouth and blithely declare on national TV, go to court. We can't be having that and be talking about an election in 2027. We must at least be honest enough to tell ourselves what is in front of us. If there is going to be an election worthy of his name, I will be out there supporting Peter Obi. If there will be an election, and if we still even have a country, the way Bulaba is going with Nigeria, what do we know that will be left of this country by 2027? What will be left of this country? Anemia is being killed in his own domain after ransomware. And we are talking about 2027. An Oba was killed. 2 Obas, for instance, were killed in Ekiti for the other time. And we are still talking about 2027. You practically don't have a functional state again. Somebody is single-handedly, without recourse to any due process, the due process law be damned, the PPP law be damned, single-handedly, without public tender of any sort, be awarding a road at 4 billion naira per kilometer. And you are still talking about a country. Why are we lying to ourselves? We must, even if they will not agree, we must be unapologetic in telling these truths. Whether we would have a country in 2027 is up in the air. Hunger has become a real issue.
So, I mean, the government of the day will say, Mr. Farotimi, that they are making...
Which government? The government that cannot even ensure that we have fuel. Which government? Do you have government? You have exploiters, buccaneers, thieves.
But, I mean,
which government?
The government of the day will say they are making efforts in fixing the problem that they met on the ground. It's still early in the day. They just have about a year.
I'm Chinese too. I'm Chinese and I'm 6'7". Do you believe me? The government of the day has said they are making effort. We see the effort now. They are making effort. They are buying private jet. They are buying yachts. They are spending 21 billion to renovate. They are spending 90-something billion on Hajj. Is that the... And then they are falsely and fraudulently implementing Orosanye report. They are busy privatizing NNPC. We are busy refining in Malta and everywhere. We see the effort they are making. So I'm Chinese too, Sheung, and I'm 6'7". Do you believe me?
So you don't see any good that this government has done since the last 1 year?
Do you see it?
No, I'm asking. You know, because I'm a journalist. I'm asking.
I had no expectation of anything good from this government. Nobody steals power to benefit the people. It does not happen. I do not expect the mercies of a thief who has robbed me. I was not under any illusion whatsoever about this government.
But when you say that the election was stolen, there are those who argue that the elections were fought. The candidate you're talking about came a distant third. The case went to court, and the first court of first instance went to the Supreme Court, and the court validated the outcome of the election as pronounced by INEC, and that the lawyers were unable to prove that the elections were rigged or fraught with irregularities. How then will you be able to say that the mandate was stolen?
Sure. Let me say something, right? You know, the ICPC was set up by Obasanjo. ICPC said that as of 2018 to 2020, 9.45 billion was paid as bribes to lawyers, by lawyers to judges. I didn't say that. Justice Kayode Esho said judges are becoming billionaires because they are sitting on electoral tribunals. Dele Farotimi didn't say that. If you believe for 1 second that the Nigerian judiciary did justice in the 2023 election cycle, I have dollars to sell to you. Just bring money, let's go and buy chemical. What I will say to you is this, Sheun. Yorubas have a proverb. They say that two people cannot be equally fooled by a lie. If the person telling the lie is unaware that he is lying, the person being told the lie should know that a lie is being told. At least the person against whom the lie is being told should also be aware that a lie has been told against him. I say it without any equivocation. The Nigerian judiciary, by its multiple somersaults in the last electoral cycle, established beyond any argument the fact of its complicity in the rape of democracy in 2023. People can hold their opinions, and that's the beauty of opinion. Everybody is entitled to one. Even me. You may or may not agree, but I am still entitled to that opinion, and that is my opinion.
Let's wrap up. Where do we go from here to have the kind of country or a nation that will be for the betterment and for the good of all Nigerians? Where do we go from here?
No, we as a people and as a collective would have to resolve to be better than we have been. We would all have to, as a collective, admit to our part, our fault in what has happened to us as a people. This is not something that is not a sectoral guilt. It's a systemic problem. From the pulpits in the churches and mosques, which stinks to the highest heavens, to the groves, the sacred groves of our land. All the places of religiosity in our country have become temples of iniquity. We need to look at ourselves. Me as a person, you as a person, we as a collective, we need to look at ourselves. It's very easy to point fingers at sectors, but the reality is that there is no part of our country that is free of putrefaction. It's a systemic collapse. If there is anything that would change, if anything would ever change, it would have to be that we as a collective with good leadership decide to try a different pathway. Outside of that, what will happen is that by the time Kekere Ekun is leaving, you will be asking me or someone else again if the new acting CJ would be able to change the system. No single person can change Nigeria. It will take the collective resolving that they are tired of where they are before anything would ever change.